remember that time when I told you that I was going to start saying some positive things about Mega Man 3? That was a great time, wasn't it? I forgot I was going to Top Man Stage next. Oh well. Yeah, Top Man Stage starts off pretty ugly, like you've got enemies coming out the wazoo here, and they're utterly invincible, you can't kill them. Okay, so I just killed that robotic frog there, but they're mostly or partially invincible. The blue bolts that I talked about in the Sparkman stage, who are invincible for the first few moments, and then those robotic frogs that you can't shoot at all. You can't hit them with any of your weapons, unless they're in the air, and even then they're a pretty small target, so it's just not cool. Enemies coming from all over the place, from all sides, and you can't shoot them. It's just not fun. What is fun, however, is Rush. Rush is Mega Man's robotic dog, who is a new addition, who Dr. Light, I guess, just invented or perfected or whatever, who is your all-purpose utility. So, Mega Man has a robotic dog that's sort of like a Swiss Army knife. It's a Swiss Army dog, or a swag. Ugh. Anyways, Rush is great because he's a springboard. He can turn into a jet sled or a submarine. Cat! What's a cat doing here with its cat yarn balls and cat fleas? This doesn't make any sense here. And it doesn't make any sense that there's plants all over the place, in the floor and the ceiling. It's like an arboretum, a greenhouse. I don't know, I've learned to stop questioning Robot Master's interior decorating preferences, but... so it doesn't make any sense, but giant cats are fun. And I'm using Search Snake right now, Snake Man's weapon. And it's actually pretty handy. I never really appreciated how versatile it is until I started this run-through of Mega Man 3. In the past, I usually tended to rely on the regular blaster or one or two other weapons. But yeah, Search Snake is pretty handy. I mean, it travels in pairs, it can glide downstairs and roll over your neighbor's robotic dog. It's a great weapon. Ah, here we are, tops. These kind of have to do with Top Man Stage. There's a lot of wasted potential here because there should have been, like, enemies flying at you and shooting at you or something. I mean, that really wasn't much of a challenge, at least I didn't think so. But, what do I know? Hey, it's Top Man time, and Top Man is, well, he's the easiest boss in the entire game, because you don't really need any special weapons to beat him. I mean, you can use Hardman's weapon on him, but really, your regular blaster works just as fine. And you just keep shooting at him, and you hop over him, stay on the other side of the room, and dodge some bullets. Now, I've seen one or two people do some really slick, awesome destructions of Top Man, where they measure their shots exactly, and they only fire what they need, and they have the timing down perfectly, so they waste as little time as possible. Those are the really awesome speedrunning people. I can only do so much. So, he's dead. I have his weapon. That's all I came here for. Unfortunately, Top Spin is almost certainly the worst weapon in the entire game, and quite possibly the worst weapon in the whole classic Mega Man series. At the very least, it's on par with Spark Shock. See, the problem is you spin when you use it. You jump in the air and you spin around. I always used to call it, like, the ballerina attack. That's just what it reminded me of. And so you throw your body at enemies. This is a problem because, number one, you don't know if the enemy you're throwing yourself at is going to be hurt at all, or if you can do enough damage to kill it, so you'll probably get hurt yourself. Number two, it does an inconsistent amount of damage to the enemies that it does affect. Number three, it takes away an inconsistent amount of weapons energy. Whoa! A new challenger has appeared. Ah, okay, I should have seen that coming. I swear I'll do better next time I fight this mysterious masked dude. Oh yes, there will be another time. Hey, he broke the floor under me. I guess that was kind of useful. So, that is Break Man. He breaks floors after you defeat him. And yes, like I said, we will see this mystery man once again. This is pretty cool. If you remember the final boss battle from Mega Man 2, the whole holographic star field should look pretty familiar. It's put to good use here because you can't really tell what the terrain is going to be like, so you either need to shoot them out, the little projector thingies hanging from the ceiling, you either need to destroy them to shut off the projection, or just memorize where you're going, or jump carefully, or take your time, or throw search snakes, and they will trace the path for you. There's just a few Mega Man games where you can use some of the weapons to trace paths for you, or to figure out where there are holes in the floor. So you can use your weapons for more than just damaging other things. Now here's a tricky part. Shadow Man stage is probably probably more than anything else, the one stage that you do not want to go to first in this game. Unfortunately, there's a couple of stages that are like that, so it makes it a little bit less replayable, unless you're extremely good, or unless you're using cheat codes or have a password to gain you extra energy tanks coming in, or whatever. But there are some of the tricky parts there, like hopping over the parachute men over the lava. If you don't hop back to a previous platform or take them out with a special weapon that you have... Oh, this is top spin, by the way. They will knock you into the lava and kill you instantly. But the big problem is Shadow Man himself. One FAQ writer described Shadow Man as pure energy. And I think that's true. Now, granted, when you use top spin against him, he dies very quickly. But you notice that I needed to get hurt, and that I used some weapons energy, but sometimes it'll use your entire bar of weapons energy, and he'll only be at half health. It's inconsistent, and that bothers me. But Shadow Man, if you try and shoot him with your regular blaster, you only do 1 damage at a time, and he's really unpredictable, and you don't get an energy tank in that stage, so you either get really lucky, or you use save states, or you cheat. Needleman, to a slightly lesser extent than Shadow Man, is another stage that you really shouldn't go to first, almost exclusively for the boss being so difficult, but his weapon is pretty useful, as is Shadow Man's weapon, which I will be showing you right now. Shadow Blade is sort of like a supposedly quote-unquote balanced version of Metal Blade from Mega Man 2. Everyone knows that the Metal Blade is awesome and horribly broken because it fires in all directions, it's pretty powerful, it uses almost no weapon energy whatsoever, and it's just great. Now, Shadow Blade still fires in multiple directions, but not as many. It still uses up a little bit of weapon energy, but more than Metal Blade did. And it doesn't fire as far. It only goes about, a quarter or a fifth of the way across the screen before boomeranging back to you. Now, the boomerang action is nice. It's sort of like a little way of saying, well, we know that we totally nerfed the Metal Blade, but we're going to try and make this a little bit better somehow. So, it's alright, and it's one of the more useful weapons in the game, but it's sort of like riding a motorcycle and then downgrading to a tricycle. It just really doesn't feel the same. Needleman stage, as I was starting to say, is mostly difficult for the boss. The rest of the stage you can get by pretty fine with even just your regular weapon. Now, there are still some annoying enemies. I mean, you have these Hammer Joes who you can only hit when their eyes change color, which is par for the course here, because you've got them, you can only hit them at a certain time, otherwise they're invincible. You have this enemy who only is vulnerable when his shield goes up. You have those needles poking out of the ceiling back earlier in the stage that were trying to puncture Mega Man's head that can't be killed at all. There are a lot of enemies in this game that you can only hit from a certain angle, or that you can only hit at a certain time, or who are just totally invincible. And it bothers me. It really throws off my groove that I need to constantly be aiming very precisely and changing my tactics and just waiting so much to be able to hit enemies. The other thing that bothers me, well, there's a lot of things that bother me about Mega Man 3, if you haven't guessed it already, but another one is that all of the bosses with the good weapons, like Needleman, are pretty hard to defeat. Now, if you have the right weapon, like Shadow Blade or Gemini Man's weapon, you can take him down in a reasonable fashion. But if you don't, your blaster does 1 damage, and it's kind of hard to dodge a lot of Needleman's attacks, and a lot of the other bosses' attacks who have all the good weapons. So you're almost forced into going to the easy bosses first to get their useless weapons, so that you can use them against the bosses who are vulnerable to them, and then actually get the useful weapons that will help you to play the game better. So, I don't know, in my mind, it sort of kills the replayability a little bit. Oh, right, positive stuff.